What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Bull Combo, your source for album reviews, vlogs, live music, and more. Today we're reviewing Southern Hostility, the latest album by Upon a Burning Body. So stick around while we talk about all the changes you can expect, as well as how Upon a Burning Body is trying to reinvent themselves. Alright guys, so before we get started, make sure to go ahead and check the link in the description to the review I did on Disguise, the latest album by Motionless and White. I posted that video yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people will probably want to see that. They're a pretty big band right now, and this album is a highly anticipated one. So check the link in the description and you can check that video out whenever you want. So today guys, we're talking Southern Hostility, the latest album by Upon a Burning Body. And yes, I am outside, which is a little bit different. It's been the crappiest spring, crappiest winter on record, so when I got a chance to film outside, bet your ass I'm gonna come out here and film. So I actually had the privilege of filming these guys last summer for a summer festival we had here in town. These guys are incredibly awesome dudes, very down to earth, very kind, took time out of their day to talk to me when they really didn't have to, and just all around acted like they were just normal guys. So kudos to those guys for being so cool. I'm really hoping that this album ends up being a success for them personally, just because I think they're really good dudes and they deserve it. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and talk the album. In terms of production quality, this album is on par with previous Upon a Burning Body albums. I wouldn't say that it's higher or lower. I would say maybe that the change in sound makes the tone of the album sound a little bit different, but we'll get to that in a second. Nevertheless, the production quality is on point with what you'd expect from Upon a Burning Body, and I think it sounds really good. All of the vocals and all of the instrumentals sit really well in the mix, and it just sounds great. Nothing takes away from the listening experience, so that's definitely a plus. The intro on the album is actually pretty heavy too. It's only a minute long, but it's a great way to start the album off, even if it is a little misleading because the first few songs on the album aren't quite that heavy and that breakdown-y. I still think it's a great way to start the album. So nevertheless, when you're listening to this album, it definitely feels in many ways like Upon a Burning Body is trying to reinvent themselves. And they're trying to break out of that deathcore, metalcore mold a little bit. And they've definitely incorporated some styles that are more reminiscent of classic metal. So on this album, you can hear a lot more thrashy guitar riffs, a lot more guitar solos, and a lot more of the classic hardcore style breakdowns. A lot of things that are very different from what UABB has done in the past. And it definitely feels like they were trying to make this album a lot more thrashy, a lot more in your face, a lot more aggressive. And for all intents and purposes, it accomplishes that. It's just a little bit of a departure in sound from some of their previous stuff. So if you can get over that, I think you can definitely enjoy this album. I know I've enjoyed this album so far. So a couple things to note here. When I'm listening to this album, it definitely does have a different vibe from previous Upon a Burning Body work. At many points throughout this album, I really hear a strong Unearth influence, and I know that's weird to say coming from Upon a Burning Body. You know, they're a different generation. They started off in a much different style of music, but as they've gone on, and especially on this album, there's a lot of similarities to Unearth in that thrashiness, in the classic style guitar solos, in those classic style hardcore breakdowns. If you heard the song King of Diamonds, their lead single, you could probably even hear what I'm talking about, and just the aggressiveness of those riffs and the thrashiness. It's definitely more on par with something you'd hear coming out of Unearth than, let's say, Whitechapel. And I do feel like on their first album, they were a lot more deathcore, and as time's gone on, they've incorporated a little bit more metalcore, and on this album, they decided to go a lot more thrashy. All around, this feels like a lot more of a true metal album. More so than any of their previous albums. This is a metal album. It's not a deathcore album. It's not a hardcore album. It's a metal album. It's in your face. It's aggressive. It's got those throwback style vibes to it. And it very much does have a sound that you would come to describe as metal, which is definitely a huge departure from their previous stuff. At some points in this album, especially the instrumentals, I definitely feel a Parkway Drive vibe. Something similar to some of the new stuff that Parkway Drive's done. A lot of that melodic style guitar riff underneath the rock style singing. Now, Upon a Burning Body doesn't use any of that rock style singing, and you won't hear any more singing out of Danny than you have heard on the previous album, so you don't have to worry about that. There is definitely a similarity in some of those instrumentals there, so people that are fans of the newer Parkway Drive will probably be able to relate to a lot of the instrumentals on this album as well. I am curious to see how they translate some of these songs live and into their live show. I know previously they relied a lot upon breakdowns and sing-alongs to carry their live show through, and while there are breakdowns on this album, it doesn't feel like they're as prevalent, and the sing-alongs, again, don't feel like they're as prevalent. So it'll be interesting to see how they interpret that in their live show, and I'm sure that they'll incorporate the parts in the song specifically that make the most sense. But that was something I definitely thought of when I was listening to this, was how they were going to incorporate those songs into their live show and mix them in with their existing discography, because obviously their existing discography is going to have a little bit of a different sound from the stuff on this album. Even though it's not as breakdown laden as their previous albums, it just feels like they relied less on breakdowns for their songwriting in this album. It doesn't mean that they aren't there. Songs like King of Diamonds, Burn, and Reinventing Hatred all have breakdowns in them. Pretty good breakdowns too, but they aren't as splashed and as prevalent as they were previously. On previous albums, they were splashed all across the album. Pretty much every song relied on a breakdown to carry it through, and that's just not quite the case on this album. The songwriting is definitely a lot stronger than it has been in some previous albums. Now, that doesn't mean that people are going to be as big a fan of this album as previous albums, because a lot of people are really big guilty pleasure metalcore and deathcore fans. I know I'm one of them. I'll listen to an album full of breakdowns all day and absolutely love the crap out of it. So it is a little bit of a transition to come into this album and listen to this. And that's something that you can expect when you're listening to this album, is to have to get a little bit of an adjustment period before you can really fully enjoy all the songs on this album. I think so far my favorite songs on the album are King of Diamonds, Reinventing Hatred, Never Alone, and The Anthem of the Doomed. Those are probably the 4 songs that I really enjoyed the most. They hit really hard. Most of those songs are probably the heavier songs on the album, and that just goes back to my listening style and what I prefer to listen to when I'm listening to a band. So I think one thing they do well on this album is incorporate a little bit of variety in terms of all the different style songs on them. While at first listen, a lot of the songs have a lot of similarity, after you start listening to them, you realize there is a lot of diversity in there, and they did try to incorporate a lot of different elements of metal into each of these songs to kind of make them stand out. So whereas, you know, a metalcore band's songs might sound very similar, there is that same element here in this album. It's just they're using some additional metal elements in their songs to make them stand out a little bit more. You know, aside from that, guys, I really don't have anything negative to say about the album, maybe besides a little bit of the repetitiveness. I think it's a strong album for Upon a Burning Body, and again, I'm really hoping that it is a big success for them personally. I'm a big fan of those guys, and I think that they deserve that kind of success. Any band that acts like that and treats their fans a certain way deserves to be where they are. So I'm definitely going to recommend you guys check out Southern Hostility. It comes out this Friday, June 7th. It's going to be available on all music outlets, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, album stores, the usual suspects. Make sure to support this band if you're a big fan of them. Support them, go to their shows, buy their merch, do the things that help a band stay a band. Other than that, guys, I want to thank you for checking out this video. If you like the content you're seeing here, make sure to click that like button. Also click the subscribe button and click the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Like I said, I'm back into posting weekly videos, so I should be coming at you guys with a new video every single week. Don't want you guys to miss it. I super appreciate the support so far, guys. Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions or comments on the video, make sure to comment down below. I'll do my best to answer those for you. Other than that, I'd like to thank you guys for checking this out. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and until next time, we'll see you soon.